Hey guys and gals, we are going to have a real quick video on this thing, the Capo. This concept in this device is such a simple, easy concept to use, and you'd be surprised how many times I hear that people have these and have no idea what to do with the thing. They have some idea that it clips on to the fretboard, but exactly how it functions they don't really know. It's a real simple concept, and we're going to take a look at it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the fretboard so we can understand what the Capo's purpose is. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to put it on the guitar and demonstrate it a little bit so you can kind of see its use. Hold on just a minute while we drag out a fretboard. Alright, all the dots and things like that on the fretboard are laid out for the basic layout of the key of C. So with that understanding, we understand that you see the little dot on the third fret, the 5th fret, the 7th fret, and the 9th fret, and the 12th fret. And basically it's laid out in the key of C, for the most part, open. So the basic understanding of the tuning, we're not going to get into that too much, but how this works out to the Capo is really simple, is that anytime you use the Capo, you're trying to simulate like playing open on the open position. All these strings are able to be played open because they're in key, in scale, in C. So using the major scale in the key of C, all these notes here are part of that scale in the key of C and can be played open. And if you look and use the 6th interval or the 6th string to see all the roots like we talked about in the series that I've showed you, that you've got the first interval, second interval, third interval, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and you have those intervals relate directly to the first mode, second, third mode, 4th mode, 5th mode, 6th mode, and 7th mode, playing modes, and their relation in name is your Ionian mode, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Alright, so that's real simple. We've gone through this in the video series that I've been presenting on the channel. So what is the deal with the Capo? Well, if you look at this, what's this note down here? E, correct? So it's all open there. So it would be just like having a Capo right here on the fretboard, on E on the 12th fret. Does that make sense? All those strings would be open. So the understanding of that, which intervals can you do that from? Well, the first interval you can't. You'll have strings that can't be played open. The second interval in the Dorian mode, yes you can. You can place it on the Dorian mode and play all open on the Dorian mode. You can on the third interval, the Phrygian mode. You can put the Capo there. So, and you can also go down to this 6th interval, which will also be here on the 6th string, and all those can be played open. So you could play it. You could put the Capo there and play the Aeolian mode open. All in the key of C, but at different modes on the fretboard. And an example of that, if we go to the key of G and look at it in G, where would it be? You'd have the second interval, the Dorian mode, you could put it on the second interval. This is the root is G and the key is in C. So the second interval Dorian, the third interval Phrygian, and the 6th interval would be E. So instead of like in C having it the third interval Phrygian, it would be the 6th interval Aeolian. So you'd be open Aeolian in G. Does that make sense? It's a very simple concept to understand, so that basically a real easy relation to that is that if you're playing in C, and let's say you're learning a piece that's in C, right? And it's Phrygian mode open in E, right? So if you're playing in C, so you decide that you've learned this piece that's in C and it's all open, right? And so you move it up to G. Let's say you move it up to the 3rd fret. What, and you're open Phrygian mode, where would that be? I mean, that's really simple, because if you're in the Phrygian mode in G, you would look up here at G, it would be D sharp. So the key would be D sharp, because it would be just like playing it in D sharp here. D sharp, if it's got it on here, C sharp. D sharp would be E flat. So we go to E flat. Where is E flat? E flat. So if we go to E flat, we have the root on E flat, you see that it's first interval, second interval, third interval, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. The third interval Phrygian is G. So if you moved up to G, it would cover all those, and you would be playing E flat Phrygian mode. But it would be just like playing whatever piece you learned open, because this would be open. Across here basically would be seen as open. This would be the first fret, the second fret, third fret, and so on and so forth, as far as the piece of music was written. It doesn't, that's the way it would look on tablature. Trying to explain it on music, written music, is a little bit more difficult to do, so I'm not going to get into that too much, because I don't want to confuse anybody that doesn't know how to read music or sight read music or something like that. I want to keep it real simple. So that's a very simple concept. So basically, anytime you put it on there, that if you're playing C, open is the Phrygian mode. If I put the capo up on the fifth fret across there, I would still be playing C in C, but I would be playing C Aeolian mode open. Does that make sense? And I'll give you an example of that so that you can understand the concept and purpose of that. If you give me just a minute, I will pull out a guitar. Okay, so let's take a look at the most basic use of it, first of all. The most basic use. Let's just give a super simple example. Here we're playing in C like we talked about, and here's the open C chord, the open G chord, or D chord, and the open G chord. Alright, so that's real simple. So if we were going to play that and we were going to say, okay, we want open Phrygian to be G, and we talked about that playing in E flat, so we'd have the open Phrygian in G. The basic concept of that, it would be very simply to put the capo on the third fret. Now that's open Phrygian in E flat. So this would be the third fret, second fret, first fret, open, as far as when you see it like you were playing it before, open, you know, normally. So then you'd have like the C chord here, to the D, to the B, to the G. Playing it open, correct? Like that. But you'd actually be playing what? You'd be playing D sharp. You'd be playing, what is this? This is going to be F, right? And then you're going to be coming down here to A sharp or E flat. Correct? Okay, so that's a very simple concept, just using that one mode from the scale. Now Dorian, we looked at the Dorian, so if we're talking about the Dorian mode, what's happening there? We know from looking at the modes that you've got the modes that we've talked about. Let's say you're in G and you go to play the Dorian mode. We know the Dorian mode, you can put a capo on, all those strings, you can play it open. And the Dorian mode, right? So you can put a capo there, right? So you can put, you can put a capo across there. What are the open chords there for the second interval? The most basic major minor chords are minor. And then, so this would be the first interval, second interval would be A, third interval would be, minor, the fourth interval would be major, the fifth interval would be major. So just right here, open, you could play this minor chord and this major chord. And you also have a major chord up here. Okay, now the other concept is sometimes you can come up with really cool little licks and stuff like that, that playing in open. Does that make sense? Playing in open position. And also the harmonic positions on the fretboard will change as you move the capo, because the string is actually being seen as shorter between this point and this point, so the harmonics will be different on the fretboard here. So, and also you have the Aeolian mode. So if I leave it right there and pretend I'm playing in C that we talked about, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth interval in C is A. So if you capo on the sixth string in A, all of them can be played. I showed you that. And you have the Aeolian mode, open. Right, and that's a minor chord and a what? Because it's going A would be minor 6th interval, and then it would be going to what? What is this up here? Up there is D. So where's D? D is the 2nd interval, correct? Right, of C, so that would be minor also. And you'd have this interval up here that would be on there for the 4th string. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but I don't want to get too complicated. But and then you can play licks and runs and stuff and open. That way you've got open strings, and you're going to be okay. Anything you hit open will be fine to do. So it's that simple. There's nothing that complicated. The uses of it can get complicated. They can get really complicated as far as all the different things you can use it for. But the basic concept of it is that simple. You basically have 3 modes playing a major or minor scale that you can capo it across there to play those modes. Does that make sense? And if you look at and also in the pentatonic scale, the minor pentatonic, so you could capo it there, and you can play the minor pentatonic scale open also. Then you can move that anywhere. There's 5 modes in the pentatonic or blues scale that you could put it there open. Does that make sense? The first mode, second, third, fourth, and then 5th. The actual minor pentatonic is the only pentatonic or blues scale that you can play open like that. So basically that's the simple concept of it. And any other scale that you can see on a fretboard that's going to show it all open there, that you can place a capo there, that you can play that open. Does that make sense? Place a capo there and play that mode open of that scale or key wherever that happens to be on the fretboard. So it's that simple, and I hope that answers the question, so the next time you're looking at a capo, that it doesn't seem like it's that complicated, and that it's very simple to understand. It takes a little bit of use. It's real easy to, first of all, move the Phrygian mode, like you're playing open C, just like it is right now, and move that around all over the place, because a lot of stuff's been written in C. So getting used to it playing it somewhere else for the Dorian mode or the Aeolian mode, take a little bit more practice getting used to the chords that can be played there and things that you can do with it. But the concept is that simple, the basic concept of it. You can do all kinds of other things for it, but that was basically its purpose to begin with. One last thing, when we're looking at the fretboard, you have to also keep in mind that as you advance, there are some musicians that will use the capo on other modes and in other positions in other scales and in other modes on different scales, that not all the notes are open. They just make sure that they only use the ones open for some reason of some composition they're doing. So you can place a capo at any of the other modes also, and any other modes of any other scale. You just have to very much keep in mind which ones that you can play open and not have to have them fretted, and which ones you can't, to stay in key and be playing that scale in key. And it's that simple. That gets a little more complicated, and I don't want to make a really long video on that. That's a little bit more advanced theory for a little bit more advanced users. And that's, once you understand the basics and you practice it, that will become very obvious that you can do that. And if you decide to do that, that it's going to take practice doing that. It's just like playing some other key or some other scale without using a capo and having open strings as the guitar sits normally, and knowing that some of those open positions, those open strings, are not going to be able to be played in scale and in key with the scale and key that you're playing, and you have to make sure that you don't use them unless you're planning on it. You can't just let them ring open, otherwise you're leaving the scale in whatever key you might be playing. Anyway, peace, hope, love. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I certainly hope that cleared up the capo. May not make you the advanced user of the capo immediately, but at least you have an idea of what it's for and what its purpose is and some of the things you can do with it. I'm not saying I addressed everything that can be done with a capo. I certainly did not. And they've come out with all kinds of things like spider capos that only depress some of the strings. They've come out with little stoppers that only stop one string at one certain fret, you know, to play alternate tunings and all kinds of things. And we didn't address any of that because that's a lot more advanced. Once you get to the point where you're messing with that you're going to be in experimentation land. So peace, hope, love. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.